Impact follows perceived value. So this is an essential thing that they don't teach you in the sustainability classroom. And perhaps the most important reason why so many people are struggling to get attention and buy-in to sustainability. So if you recognize this pain point, if you're one of the many that are struggling with getting buy-in and approval and funding for projects, then listen in. My name is Jasper Steinhausen, and this is Outside Perspective, where, as usual, I give you perspectives on issues in the intersection between sustainability and business. So a lot of leaders, and especially right now with this bit of a global headwind towards the entire agenda, a lot of people are faced with issues and problems around speeding up and keeping perhaps just the momentum around sustainability in the organization. And I've helped hundreds, if not thousands of people over the years with this problem, some directly in your organization and others through training them so that they can go home and do it themselves. But it's everything from board members trying to get C-suite to really dig in, or the C-suite people trying to get the board in, or the rest of the team, or chief sustainability officers or similar titles struggling to get leadership approval. So it's on all levels. I mean, just this week I got another request from a company, this time in the Czech Republic, about this issue. So it's all over. So let's dive in and let me help you fix this once and for all. So, as I said, impact follows perceived value. And when something is not perceived important, well, then we all know what happens, right? It gets pushed aside, it gets less priority, or perhaps entirely pushed aside for something that we're not supposed to do. And we all do this. It's completely natural. We all do it, and we all do it all the time in our lives. So there isn't anything weird about this. The problem is just that the people you're trying to sway, they're not able to connect the dots and see how your agenda, your initiatives, is correlated to what they find super important, and remember what they also get measured on, right? So that's why it's hard to get them on board. So the thing here is that perceived value of sustainability is directly correlated with the maturity of the people when it comes to sustainability in the organization that you are working in. So for some, if it's low, it's really important that you reframe this in terms of the value that they understand. So it's your job to do that translation part, you could say, and connect it to value that they understand. So the key issue here is really to be able to see what comes on the other side of making any given type of sustainability project. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you're in a manufacturing company, and as part of your carbon reduction plan, you want to change to LED lighting in the on the shop floor and install solar cells on the roof. Right? So typically arguments could look kind of like we want to reduce our carbon emissions, and there's also a traditional business case for the investment side. But the thing is that you will then be leading with the environmental argument. What this really is about, and what you must emphasize if you want approval of this, is that changing the light and upgrading the quality of the light will mean that the people working there will have less fatigue, will mean increased productivity, and it will mean less days of sick leave. And that's where the real value is. And then of course it will mean something in terms of getting resilience in your energy supply, and on a longer term lower cost of energy. So all these things need to be baked in, and then on top of that, well, then you also get the environmental or sustainability related bonus, you could say, and something to talk about when you say what your climate effort is really all about. But it has to be in that order, and you have to be able to consider all these elements, because otherwise you are not giving people a chance. So I know a lot of people will say that, well, I'm used to thinking about where they are, what sort of level of maturity or whatever framing you might call it. But I'm sure you do. But where I see most people get it wrong then is that if they are faced with people that are not really super supportive of this agenda yet, well, then they double down on the arguments for why it's important from an environmental point of view. More data on where the world is heading, and basically telling, the world is going to hell, we need to do something about it. But it just doesn't work like that. Well, you have to make the translation, you have to reframe it and connect it for them to the agendas that they think is really important. So I hope this is helpful. Go practice it. It takes a little while, but it's absolutely a skill that you can hone. So go practice and do it, and let me know if you have any questions or comments. And as always, of course, I would love if you would subscribe and follow this channel if you find this interesting, and perhaps even share it with somebody if you know somebody who is facing this problem. I'll see you in another episode. Bye.